Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Showtime with Jordan Van Haslow and friends on 702.5 FM Las Vegas. Today, I am back with another friend, the fabulously talented musician and actress, Jessie Payo. Jessie, thank you so much for joining me this
week. I'm so excited that I can just do this from my bedroom.
They're like, right, it's all about silver linings at this point in 2020, right? It's all about the silver linings.
I'm trying to find, the silver linings are like the size of a thread, and I'm collecting them at this point. And trying to find all the silver linings at this point.
Totally. Well, I'm so glad that you're here with me, because let me tell you, I've known you now, I think, for probably about 5 or 6 years, and I remember I think you were doing Bad Betty. You're doing the Bad Betty thing, and Ryan Newcomb invited me out to come and see you, and I was like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. I gotta know who this woman is, and we've never had a chance to really get to know each other, but I think you're so interesting and so unique, and I love your Instagram. Like, you just have this like you're weird, but you're sexy, but you're talented, and it's like all these things come, like, you're so like, I've just been dying to like have a moment to like really get a chance to really get to know you. So I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, because we haven't really sat down and like for this long of time, just one-on-one.
Yeah.
And really talked about where we come from and everything. And yeah, you're totally right. I strive to make sexy and strange as much as I can. It's my goal.
So before we dive into this, I'm going to ask you the thing that I've been asking everyone for the last few weeks. How have you been spending your spring break?
Okay, well, I have been doing a mixture of trying to get out of town as much as I can, even if it's just an hour out of town, to get a mixture of nature and inspiration. And when I'm at home, I have been diving into songwriting. I have been making these skits that I put up on Instagram called This Thing I Have in My House, which is kind of like very similar to like the 1950s kind of nuclear war, like apocalyptic vibe, where it's a little Twilight Zone-y. It's a little bit of like, everything's fine. It's not. And I've been painting a lot. I did this thing called the Community Arts Project LA, where my friend Ali Fudurer had cultivated all these different groups of musicians from all over the world and put us into groups of 4, and we all made songs from all over the place remotely. And with my song, I did the artwork for it, because our theme was called Butternut. So I wrote a song called Soup, so I made a painting of butternut squash for it. I've been doing it all to stay safe.
I fucking love it. Oh my God, I love it. So I guess, because everything you do, like what I've always found fascinating, I remember having a conversation with Creighton about this, about you. I was like, she's so unique, because every time, I think the only times that we've really hung out, there've been a couple of times, like maybe they've had parties or something, but I feel like I've come to a couple of different of your events or your shows, and you have like all of the, like, it's like you have like burlesque Jessie Payo, and then you have like rocker Jessie Payo, and then you have like singer-songwriter Jessie Payo, and then you have like character actress Jessie Payo. So I'm so curious to know just like where that all started. Like, did it start with music? Did it start with acting? Did it start with theater? So take me back to the beginning. And I want to know everything. You were born, then what happened?
Well, I was born into a household full of hams. So, my parents met in the theater department in college in Colorado at Greeley, and they came out to LA to pursue acting. And it was from, the get-go. My parents were doing plays in LA. My mom became a part of the Glendale Center Theater, and I had my debut as a baby otter at the age of 4 in this Narnia knockoff called Popsicle Palace. And my only scene was at the end, because apparently my character was frozen by the Ice Queen. So at the end, I didn't have to do anything till the end. I just run out and go, "Mommy, mommy," to my actual mom, who's playing the mommy otter.
So you were typecast from the beginning.
Yes. So I was around a lot of theater. My parents were involved in a lot of theater growing up, and there was also a lot of music in the house. When I started to get involved was when I was younger. I kind of shied away for a little bit, because when I was little, I would start singing at parties and stuff, and then it brought a lot of attention to me, and I was a little scared because they started going like, "Oh, Jessie, do that thing you did the other day," and I was like, "Oh man, like no." So I kind of shut it down for a while because I just got embarrassed, and then around 11 years old, I decided I wanted to be a hip hop dancer. And my mom said, "You can't be a hip hop dancer until you do ballet." And I was like, "Oh crap, I don't do ballet." But I ended up falling in love with it. It gave me a lot of confidence. It taught me how to stand and command myself, even in normal life. It taught me discipline, confidence, that it was okay to be regal, and then that connected to our dance company had a holiday concert where all of us had to sing a line of something, and they gave me a solo, and when I went to go sing it, I was like, "Oh, I like can sing." and I remember rewinding the tape over and over again, going like, "Hey, I think I'm good at that," and it garnered a lot of attention. And I'm on stage. I love attention. So I just started practicing and finding my voice in our guest house. And my parents had a lot of musicians come over and jam out, and I practiced Janis Joplin songs. So when they came over, I knew I could just jump in. My parents didn't know I was doing this. So when they had one of their jams, they I was like, "Play a little piece of my heart," and then I went, "Well, oh my God," and they're like, what did she let her do?" Like, and I remember seeing their faces, and I was like, "Yeah, but I've been practicing." Like, you didn't know. All of this at the same time, what was happening at the same very exact age as I joined the LA Women's Shakespeare Company, which was led by Lisa Volpe, and it was pretty incredible group that was centered out of Culver City. And so basically it was all female driven, cast all women in every role. Like it was the opposite of how Shakespeare plays were cast, where it was all men playing all the roles. At that same age, I got to play in Richard III as young Queen Elizabeth, and I fell in love with that whole world. So all of these things kind of came together at that very formative young age.
Yeah.
And at that time, I really thought that acting was going to be my thing, just because my parents were a part of it, and it's what I studied the most. I did study in like a different theater companies, and the dance made me a better actress, and the singing made me like that, called for that in a lot of plays. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get all of these skills lined up so I can just be the best Broadway star that ever lived. And it kind of took a turn when I started playing in bands, and I was like, all right. I started playing in a blues band with my dad. We started a blues band called Jessie and the Rain Dogs. I was playing gigs by the time I was 15. I'm like trying to wrap my brain because all this.
I think that's so funny though, because most people would be mortified at the idea of starting a band with their dad.
I know. Well, I I was such a weird kid that hung out with their parents. I was like, I don't get kids my age. I don't hang out with mom and dad, and they're
Are you an
weird
only
friends.
child?
I have a brother.
Older or
He's
younger?
2 years younger.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is he an entertainer as well?
No, but he's probably one of the funniest people I know, and better actors, and better music taste than me. He just tends to keep it to himself. I'm living very outward. He's a very inward person.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like growing up. But he and I would have our own. Both of our parents worked a lot, so we would end up putting our own stuff together growing up. I was always casting him in videos that I would make, and like radio shows, like, all right, come on, there's a show right here, and like he would join in. So I did a lot of blues music. I was determined to be a blues singer after that. I got to open up for Etta James and Pine Top Perkins. And
how awesome is that?
Yeah, I was pretty set on making that happen for me, but this was the time that it was all bubblegum pop coming up. And every industry person that I performed to that came to my shows said that I would benefit more from jumping on that train. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. So I just kept on gigging and doing all of that. And I kind of gave up on the acting part for a little bit. I had applied for a scholarship to Cal Arts to do acting when it came time to go to college, and I got in. And I realized that I didn't want to pursue that. I was like, I've been doing music all throughout high school. I get to choose my identity in music. I get to shift through all these different personalities musically. And so I decided to go to Berkeley College of Music, and still kept dancing, but like music kind of became the number one focus, and I put the acting away and I put the dancing away. The dancing came back throughout doing music because I started producing burlesque. and the acting kind of just started coming back by just sitting in my room.
Tell me this, do you regret it all not jumping on the pop train and seeing what that could have had, like what that experience might have been?
Not at all. I wasn't prepared. I honestly don't think I was prepared for any sort of success at a young age. I think that everything's kind of rolling out as it should for me. I wasn't mentally prepared. I didn't physically accept myself. I grew up with a lot of body dysmorphia and anorexia, and I just think that was an unhealthy time for girls of my age to come up as artists. So I don't regret it.
How was your time at Berkeley? I knew a couple of people who went to Berkeley. A couple of my friends went to Berkeley, and they really enjoyed it. And I think Berkeley's a unique school because I went to music school, but I went to a very much more traditional music school where it's about theory and it's about music history and it was a classical major. Whereas I think Berkeley's program is really about like, look, let's teach you how to actually like earn a living in this field.
I loved it. I didn't finish like a lot of people, but what I did love about it is we not only had to learn, like if you were coming into the school like I did that didn't have a lot of theory, you had to take ear training and composition and all of that, which I ended up using later, and also charting, which I didn't know how to use before. But also, most importantly, I mean, for a lot of the reasons with Berkeley is that I kept a lot of those relationships. And I was able to still work with people that I went to school with. So I'm still very close to people in my class. Yeah. Even though I didn't stay, because of their networking system and everything, we were able to just keep in touch and nurture those relationships, business-wise and, personally.
Yeah.
And what I loved about it too, that was outside of the school, is that I had so many resources to artists and venues. Like we would all like perform at different venues outside of the campus, and then I also met a lot of musicians around Boston. I love that I went to school in Boston.
Yeah. Was it a culture shock? Because so I spent like my teens and early 20 and my whole adult life
Yeah.
in New York. I didn't move to LA until I was in my 30s. And I think
Yeah.
like, oh my God, if I like came of age in LA, I would be a totally different person than had I not chosen to go to New York first. Was it a cult, like being like born and bred in LA? Was that like going to the East Coast, like who the hell are these people?
There was definitely a culture shock, but I think it was the culture shock that I needed. It
Yeah.
was so, because LA is such a new town, and Boston is completely different from that. And it was nice to be around some history for once. Like,
Yeah.
and you know, as you've seen in LA, businesses don't last as the way that they do in Boston or like in an older city. I loved it, especially being able to just, you know, jump on the train and like go, like walk and explore. I think in the first week I walked everywhere, and it was
Yeah.
so nice. I felt like I got some culture for once. I grew up in Burbank, and everything's a freaking strip mall. I mean, there's great parts of Burbank, don't get me wrong, Magnolia Boulevard, shout out. But, you know, it was so, I needed that. Did not like the weather. No. Let me take that back. I liked the fall, like the changing of the leaves, and that was nice. But my God,
But come
it
December,
snowed.
you're like, no.
I remember I had to walk because I lived on Com Ave, and my classes were on Boylston, and it was like a couple, like I would say like a half a mile walk.
Right.
But in the snow, when you don't know how to dress for the winter, and you're wearing dum-dum heels. And I just like didn't like, okay, fashion was not cool in the early 2000s anyway. Try trying to be a short girl wearing layers. I felt like Paddington Bear. I looked crazy. My jeans were all frayed out at the bottom. Not chill. So yeah, in essence, I'm so glad I went to a place that was completely different from LA.
Yeah. What led you to leaving Berkeley?
I think what happened is that, well, first of all, I was just a performance major, and they were upping the cost of tuition. They wanted more money for software, which I totally understand. But I was a performer, and some of the classes that I was taking was like, okay, here's a class on how to be a country singer. Here's a class on how to be a funk singer. And I'm like, I'm doing this weekly
Already, yeah,
for work. Yeah, and I think my only regret in leaving is that I wish that I would have done more business classes out there. But that's something you also learn by doing,
Totally.
and asking questions and reading. But I don't fully regret leaving early. I came back to LA, and I started working right away. And using a lot of the skills, because even one of the first jobs I got coming back was a sight reading gig, and I wouldn't have been able to do that before.
Totally. So you were like, what did you do when you got back to LA? Were you doing like a lot of session work, or were you doing like
lots of session work? I did. To this day, I have a song that I sang on Disney's Halloweentown High, which plays every October, and I have a small following from that song. But I remember it was my first big job, and I was like, I've made it. And it was so sassy, and I was like, I learned so many skills. I mean, yeah, I did a lot of session work, and that's when I started doing the burlesque stuff too.
Yeah. So how did the burlesque stuff come about? Did you like fall into it? Did someone pull you into it, or did you see something and say, oh my God, I want to put on a burlesque show?
Well, before I left for college, I performed a lot at Harvell's Blues Club in
Mm-hmm.
Santa Monica, and I would always go to the Toledo show, which is the longest running show pretty much in LA. Every Sunday, this guy Toledo, and he would have his dancers around him, and it seemed like a very Tom Waits like deep poetry, gritty thing, and it's everything that I just admired, and I always wanted to be a part of it. So when I came back, I started sitting in with the band, and I want to wear the burlesque costumes, and I would come in with my cheap Target bras and everything, like did not know what I was doing. I was like, how do I get the good stuff? And so I would just keep on performing with him, and there's YouTube videos of this, by the way. Like I look crazy. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
We'll find them.
Yeah, it's not hard to find. So I became kind of a veteran with them, and oh my gosh, my computer. I don't know why this is doing this. So then I started doing a lot of different shows at Harvell. They had this show called Bongos Fury, and that's where I met a lot of dancers that I still work with today. Miss Dakota Nicole is a big burlesque dancer in the scene. She's huge with, at the time she was doing the Ivan Kane 40 Deuce. And she and I actually co-produced Bad Betty together years and years and years down the line, but we met doing Bongo Fury at Harvell's, and I remember her seeing me sing for the first time, and she's like, who are you? What is this? She took videos of it. She's like, I have to know everything about you. I mean, we got to figure out what to do with you. And I met most of the girls that I work with back in the day by kind of just navigating through the scene and then getting in with them. And Dakota started bringing me into her productions, into her shows, and that's where I started kind of crafting how I would do it. And when she saw me sing my own stuff at Hotel Cafe, she's like, let's bring our forces together, let's produce a show. And that's how Bad Betty came about, because I knew I always wanted to put together like a bad girl 50s Pussycat Kill Kill kind of vibe of a show, because I've not seen that before. And it was such a great show. And so that's kind of in short how I fell into that. And there's not a lot of singers in LA. It's me, and for the most part, it's me and this other amazing singer, Lindsay Halderson, that usually do those gigs. I mean, there's not a lot of us out there that can like combine the dance and the burlesque and the singing together. And I'm really grateful that I get to have that experience. Maybe one day again.
Yeah, well, because I find, and maybe, I mean, I've been in LA for 6 years now, and I find that musically, it seems like LA is a sort of a narrow scene. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember one of the things, like when I first saw you, I was like, oh my God, reminds me of like when I was in New York, because people are more theatrical, and like, whereas I find here, it's like you're either kind of like a singer-songwriter, or you're like a rocker, or you're like trying to like get to the top 10 and you're like a straight up pop star. Like it's like totally. I don't feel like there's necessarily an audience, or there's like a lot of venues that allow people to really just kind of do something that's out there and just be creative, and something that's like left of center or whatnot.
Well, I feel like because this town is so centered on people kind of auditioning at you, it's very rare when people do something that's for the sake of just an art project, because you also have to make money off of it. You also have to like get the audience in, and it's very rare to produce shows like that, because it for one thing, it costs a lot of money to put on a show like that. And especially that's what I've loved is seeing all of like the what are those shows, for the record shows where they take like
they did the Boz, and like they did I saw the Boz show when they did that.
And it was like first, because I got to see the 80s one, I forget.
Oh, Hughes, the director, right?
The John
John
Hughes
Hughes.
one. Yeah. My friend Kenton was in it, and Kenton Chen, he was so incredible. And it was the first time I saw one of the shows. I was like, oh my god, like, oh, this is it. This is where I come from. This is what like brought it to my blood in the first place. I was like, hell yeah, like production value, like they rehearsed it, it was executed right. Because there's so many times where people throw things together,
Yeah,
and people applaud it, and I'm like, you clearly haven't seen what good theater is.
mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of substance, I've noticed, growing up here. So yeah, but that kind of stuff always really inspires.
Yeah.
I have to backtrack. My growing up, my dad produced, wrote, and like co-directed a show called The Barry Ivy Show, and it was a fake late night TV show that happened in Los Feliz every Saturday night at 11:30. It was a small black box theater, and they would pretend like it was a live broadcast, so the audience would be like the live audience, and they would have a live band, and they'd have like commercial segments, and like we'd have fake commercial segments, like and of course my dad filmed my mom and my brother in the park where it was like for Safeguard soap, and she's literally running around the park like squeezing soap into his hair, or like rubbing him down while he was climbing like the jungle gym. And I just realized, I'm like, that's where it all comes from, like that kind of weird skit make believe stuff. Like there was one time where they did a stunt of the week where he ate a bunch of like mixed or cheeseburgers, like fast food cheeseburgers, and then he's like, I got a heart attack. Whoa. And they had a fake surgeon come in, and they lifted up a sheet and had fake blood spurting out as they removed the cholesterol from his heart. I was like, oh man, I want to do that again.
Oh my god, do they still do shows? Like I know you guys did the little thing on your Instagram the other day. I saw that.
Oh yeah. No. We haven't done any of those shows since that. I mean, that was in the 90s. Like I was.
No, but I mean, like, do they still perform? Do they still like do their own thing?
My dad has passed. He passed away in 2006. But my mom, she has been doing these things where she curates cold reads of movies and plays. And every year we do a reading of The Christmas Carol, and she casts it, and we all come together and read the parts. And then, not a long time ago, like during quarantine, we did a Zoom reading of Midnight in Paris, and everyone dresses up in like 20s French gear, and we all read our parts over Zoom. And it's something that we get a lot of joy of, and she's always creating these opportunities to exercise her acting bug.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you did the Bad Betty. So Bad Betty came later, but so you got into burlesque, and so then like what came when you got out of school? Like, did you come out like with like because we all, especially when you're younger, you like think like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Then I'm gonna win a Grammy or an Oscar or whatever I'm gonna do. And then life, turns and twists, and then you find you like things that you didn't know you liked, or you find so like when you came out of school, were you like thinking like this is my plan? Like what were you thinking at that time?
Oh man, see, this is where I did not have a plan, and I kind of just flew by the seat of my pants. I think that musically, I just loved what I discovered when I was in Boston is that I love so much different music. So I just didn't have a plan, and I kind of lived like a free artist. And to be perfectly honest, I think that when my father passed, because he was such an integral part of my upbringing, is I kind of got lost, and I I just started playing gigs, and luckily I fell into a record deal with this group called Jupiter Rising, and I got signed. But it was music that I didn't necessarily write. It did teach me how to write pop songs. We had some success. We had great success. My partner was Spencer Neasy, who still is quite an incredible producer. But it was unfair to that project because I came into it because I was going to make money and tour, and I always wanted to tour and make money as a musician. And after my dad passed, I was like, I'll take anything, whatever.
How was that presented to you, or how did that opportunity come about?
Well, I was the backup singer.
Okay.
And the lead singer, so the leads were Spencer and this artist 80 Bug, and they had already written a full record, and I came on as the backup singer for their live shows and tours. And she had some stuff go on with the label, and they said, "Hey Jess, do you want it? It's yours if you want it." And I was like, "Hell yeah, fine,
okay.
Yeah. Yes, I want it." And I'm glad I had the experience. What I've taken away is that you have to do music, or you have to be the artist that you are. You cannot try to fit into something else, no matter how hard you try, because I really tried to fit into what do they say? Fit a square peg into a round hole.
Into a round hole, yeah.
Yeah, I was a square peg, and it read that way on our tours. Like, I was trying to be like this, Fergie type character, and I was like, I want to sing about something else, and it didn't resonate with our audience. And luckily they were able to bring in a pussycat doll to take over, and then I renamed the project, and then I went on to write a country record. And and honestly, that was the first time that I sat with myself and wrote something honest, and I was really happy with it. And I just decided that from here on out, I'm only going to make honest work. And, however that lands, it lands. And luckily, I'm able to support myself through the songs that I write and the work that I do. And I want to keep continuing to do that. So when you ask if I had a plan, I didn't. And now, from the lessons I've learned, I've become more wise in how I approach things. And I've learned the most important lesson is that you have to just be 1,000,000% yourself, even in doing business. You cannot waver. You cannot there's compromises you can make, but sometimes you have to say, I'm not taking that deal, because if I take this deal and I don't stand by it, we're all going to lose. And I've lost a lot of battles, and that's why early in the conversation, if I had made it early
when you were
on,
16,
yeah, there's no way I would have been happy. Yeah. And the lessons that I've learned along the way are just so much more enriching, and I'm excited to see how I can apply it from here on out, because we've all been spending a lot of time on our own to contemplate these things and where we're at and what is really of value. And when I'm making art right now with no monetary return, it's an interesting question to ask yourself. I'm not making money off of this, but I'm going to spend all week doing this.
But do you feel more fulfilled doing that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I do feel like I'm being smarter about the steps I will take for myself. Just to give an example, I have a single that's ready to go. It's mastered. It sounds beautiful. It's something I'm really proud of. And the old me would have just shot from the hip, said, "It's out now," and not ask for any help, not ask for advice, not made an actual business plan as to how to launch it without a team. Because I've had teams of people working behind me, and I've had people not working behind me. And when it's just me on my own, I kind of don't take the right steps. And so this
Mm-hmm.
time it's like a little test to be like, okay, Jessie, you know you can do this. The music's done, like relax. And you know, right, given where we're at in the world right now, I'm not ready.
Right.
I want to nurture and incubate this baby and see how I can be of service. And then when it's time, I'll be like, here's something nice that you can open up. Enjoy.
And pay for. And pay for.
And can you, but you're going to have to pay for it.
That's what I find so interesting, because I feel like, so, you know, everything shut down while I was in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like performing, you know, this is like, it's very easy to work in Vegas. My perspective, I haven't been in Vegas for a very long time. And yeah, I came in with a show on the Strip, but I find that it's very, like, there's just a lot of opportunities to perform, and there's a lot of opportunities to make money as a performer. And I feel like when the world shut down, people went crazy just because they're just so used to just always performing. And I found that within 3 weeks, I would open up Facebook and it's like, oh my God, everybody is singing at me. Like, why is everybody singing at me? But I also thought, because another friend of mine was like saying like, oh, you should do a stage it. You should do a blah, 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 blah. It's, you know, but I also think like, well, you know, if once upon a time you paid X amount of dollars to come into a theater or come into a nightclub, and you had to pay for your 2-drink minimum to see me, am I devaluing myself by just giving it away on the internet?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and and so just thinking about what you were just saying about like, okay, I have this project, and it would just be so easy just to let it go, because everyone's doing that right now. Having that restraint, I think, is really important. Important for your brand, important for your your value as an entertainer, and even though as an artist, you shouldn't say it as a commodity. Like I think that you're very wise in that.
Yeah, I think that it kind of equates to why I usually don't like to talk to the audience before a show. You know what I mean? Because to have a little bit of that mystique and allure really helps. I mean, that's the excitement. That builds the excitement.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that there's also that line where people, when they, you know, are looking for relief, and it's, some musicians kind of can offer that a little bit. I understand that, but you know, there's all different levels of it. I think that for me, I'll occasionally do a live stream on my Facebook, because I have a lot of fans there that I haven't really engaged with that are from all over the world. So, you know, occasionally popping in and saying, how you guys doing? Okay, I'm going to do those few songs that you like. And then here's my Venmo. Like, support me. All right. But it's like, it's cool because these are people that have followed me from day one that I've kind of not been paying too much attention to, because I wasn't a big Facebook person. But I kept that side, and I'm glad that I can reconnect with these people that have been so supportive throughout all these years. It's just not, it's a very fine line of giving it away and also checking in.
Yeah, totally. You're very good. And this is something that just over the course of the time that I've been doing this show for 702.5. Speaking of staying employed, 702.5, like, my social game is really horrible, because I find that trying to find that balance of like creating a mystique around what you do, but also like getting people to respond to what you do is very difficult for me. And I think you do a very, very good job of it on your Insta. Like, if you were to describe, like, I don't know if you if you sat down and really like figured out like, this is what the Jessie Payo brand is, and this is what the brand filter is, and this would be an appropriate post, and this would not be appropriate post, or do you just kind of just wing it and go by your gut?
That's a good question. I think that most of the time when I post something, I'm like, well, would I think that's cool? And like it's like a little thing where if I'm gonna be the obligatory thirst trap, might as well have a very self-aware caption about it. Like, I'm doing this because I can't flirt right now, and this is how I look. I want to enjoy it. Take it in, drink it up. It's me, it's my body. I'm not gonna live it forever. I just want to make sure that it's a mix of it, and also like, yeah, the whole singing at me thing is, I'm on board with that. One of my least favorite things is seeing people singing at you, like, I'm in so much pain and I'm singing. Oh God, no. Oh man.
But you kind of wonder though, because I mean, like, I really don't think I know that the world is opening up. Like, part of the reason like I came out to Palm Springs is because Vegas is like totally open.
Oh my God.
On the 4th, the casinos reopen, and the guy who owns the D Hotel, he's announced that he's giving 1,000 free flights to Vegas to get people there. And my first thought was, okay, it's time for me to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
I'll be back. But it makes me nervous because I've released one album over the last 20 years. I've primarily, like, I've not done much TV. I've not done much film. Like, I've primarily made my career doing live theater, doing live music. And it's really, I mean, I find it really scary because I really don't think that live entertainment as we knew it is going to be back for a very, very long time. How are you, like, what do you, like, what, like, because I know you perform live all the time. So like, where are you with that, and like kind of reconfiguring, like, okay, this is how I've always operated. How can I, change it up in light of, where we are in the world?
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I was performing up before all of this a lot in like kind of the hotel bar situations or like the corporate gig situations, and to be perfectly honest, I was a little burnt out on it. And I wanted to do on the other side of the coin, what's really heartbreaking for me is the touring aspect. Like, that aspect is where I find the most joy in going from town to town, playing my own music, having the camaraderie with the people on the road with me, and meeting people on the road, meeting, radio people, and meeting people at the venue. And like, that's where I thrive from. That's what I'm going to miss the most. I think that for now, just so I don't lose my mind in utter depression about it, like, is to just keep on writing and performing, creating my own aspects of performing. Like, I can still perform. Unfortunately, I don't get the audience like I used to for now, but I can. You can get creative, even if I set up, if it's not a live stream, I can set up my house and it'd be like a cabaret and make a little concert of some sort, and like be creative in that way. And then in the meantime, hone in my writing skills and keep on that part of, the creative expression going. But yeah, it's not going to be the same for a long time. And instead of, lamenting it, thinking of ways to be creative about it. I know that a lot of people are doing like drive-up concerts and stuff, and that's cool. But I don't see myself doing that anytime soon. Maybe down the line. But right now I'm just like focusing on making sure that I'm treating myself right, for one thing, because this is a mentally challenging time, and I'm focusing on the recording aspect of it.
Yeah.
And working on that and writing good songs, and I'm performing in these dumb skits that I do. Like, I'm like, that's my outlet right now. It started as a strange little thing, and I'm still doing it. Well, I'm holding off on releasing the next batch of segments just because I just want to kind of take a break from.
So
like,
what's it with regards to your skits? Like, I've seen you with a mustache. I've seen you with.
Yeah.
With regards, do you like what's your process with writing that? Like, do you like just have like just crazy writing sessions where you're like da 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 da, or do you like collaborate with someone to do a writer's room, or do you just say like turn on the camera and let's see what happens, and if it sucks you say delete, and if it's good you're like okay, we're posting that?
Well, I'll put on a costume.
So it starts with the costume.
It starts with a costume, and then I'll find the focus of what I like, because it's this thing I have in my house. I'll grab an object and I'll go, okay, what can I use with this? And then I'll try, and I'll just off the cuff go, oh, here's a sprinkled cupcake. This thing I have in my mouth is probably the last of them for a while because I have to wash my finger. And I'll like run it a couple times, and then I'll something will come up, and I'll go, oh, I'll keep that, and I'll combine it with that. But it's never really, I never really sit down and go like write down anything. The only time I wrote down anything was when I did a multiple character one, and I just had to write down what their costume was and what their prop was.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
That's so awesome. How did that even come about? Like, did you like? Because it's so funny. I remember the first time it popped across my feed, I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, but it's the most, but at the same time, it's like the most obvious thing I've ever seen. Like,
it's so obvious. Well, the way it came out is my friend Allie, who I like just spoke about earlier, she had moved into her grandmother's cabin in Tahoe, and she and her boyfriend were just doing a joke called Check This Out, where every day they would show something kitschy in the house. And I said, and the time that they would show it was like at 11:35 or something. And I was like, Allie, what is this? I was like, can I do a spinoff of this? Because I was like, oh, I like this. She's like, yes, I'm the network, and the network has signed you on. So we have our fake little thing called our network. And so when I started rolling with mine, she's like, oh man, I haven't shot any of mine yet. And I'm like, well, I'm still giving you credit, like you inspired the idea. And then from when I've done it, then other people started doing their own versions of the show, and then they've been posting it. So it's just a weird, stupid thing, because we're all like inside our houses, like it makes sense for it to be a thing. Like, this thing I have in my house, this reminds me of the Hollywood Regency, and I got it at a garage sale for $5.
I think it's brilliant. So now you're on season 3.
Season 3. I've shot four episodes of season 3 are done.
How many do you do a season, or do you just do it until you're like tired and then you're like, okay, season finale?
Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. And I think this is the last season because I'm running out of clothes. So I need to buy some clothes. I need to get some clothes for if I've got to do season 4. I need some sponsors.
There you go.
Yeah. It's been a fun project.
I think it's quite hilarious. I caught Ryan and Creighton's, and I thought that was like really fun.
They gave me 2 episodes. It was wonderful.
They did 2? I only saw the 1.
They did 2.
I have to go look up the second one. The only one I saw, Creighton was dressed like freaking like Sherlock Holmes or something, and they're like
with a voodoo doll.
Yeah.
They're so great. They're so great.
How did you guys meet?
We met through the Mowglis.
Okay.
So, my ex-boyfriend used to be in the Mowglis, and I remember the night I met them at the Wiltern. They had just played a show, and I had just played a show, so I was all my burlesque stuff. And I remember walking backstage, and they literally just like
They're like, "Hey, you, come here."
they're like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, "Who are you?" And my ex was like, "I knew that was gonna happen. I knew they were gonna adopt you right away." I was like, yeah, "Yes, it was love at first sight."
Yeah, they're cool peeps. They're really cool peeps. I really credit them in like they kind of launched my social life in Los
Oh
Angeles
wow!
because
I love that.
I moved out to Los Angeles to work for Sony,
Uh-huh.
and I met Ryan in new hire orientation. And I remember sitting around the
Oh.
table, and you know how like HR always makes you do those stupid things. They're like, say your name, what department you're in, and what your favorite TV show is. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm Jordan Van Haslow. I'm the head of talent sourcing, and my favorite TV show will always be The Gossip Girl, XOXO. That was the end of it.
That's it.
Cut to like 2 weeks later, Ryan emails me through the company system. He's like, hey, Leighton Meester's gonna be at the Troubadour. Do you want to go? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like first. I was like in LA for 2 weeks, and like that's kind of
They're so great about that. Like they like friends like that just like always doing something and saying like, come and meet my friends. And like I remember when I met you, and they're like, oh, we'll just arrive at Jordan's house, and he's just in his kimono and like just looking fabulous all the time. And I'm like, oh, I need to know. I need to know you. I think we went to watch. Didn't we go see that '80s movie?
Oh,
Oh my
Never Ending
God.
Story. Were you at the
Yes.
Never Ending? Yes, at the
Yes.
at the whatchamacallit. And I'm still heartbroken about that story. And they never live it down. Well, so let me tell you. So here's the thing. And then we have to go because the next show has to come on. But and I was a kid, I loved that movie.
Yeah.
And I was in love with Atreyu,
Yeah.
he who hunts the water buffalo. Loved him. I was like 8, but he was just like my stars and my moon. Well, hadn't seen that movie for probably 15 plus years. One day, I like happen to be flipping through the channels and I see the Never Ending Stories coming on. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, the Never Ending Stories coming on. Atreyu, I love him. So I like run to the kitchen, I make popcorn, I mix myself a martini, and I'm like sitting here watching the movie, and it's like so good.
Yeah.
And then finally we get to the scene where they're like, our world is dying, only he who was. And I'm like, okay, here comes Atreyu, here comes Atreyu. And like the crowd parts, Atreyu walks out, and Atreyu's 12.
Oh my God.
It was horrible. Well, listen, I want to keep on talking to you, but as far as our time on 7025 FM, that time is up because there is another show after us. But thank you so much for joining us. For our listeners, where can they find you and this current season of This Thing in My House?
Well, you can find me, Jessie Payo, JESSIE PAYO. That's my Instagram handle, where you can find my episodes of This Thing I Have in My House. You can find my music on Spotify. And my website is jessiepayo.com, and it has everything on there.
Holla.
And that's it.
Well, I'm so glad we had a chance to connect and have this hour. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next week, Monday, at our new hour. We've been at 5 o'clock for the entire run of the show, but we're now at 11 a.m. So you get your coffee, you watch your View, and since Wendy Williams is doing whatever Wendy Williams is doing and is airing live, you can listen to us. Be sure to pick us up and follow us at Showtime with Jordan. We'll see you next week, or talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Yeah, wait, how do I stop the recording? Oh, stop.